Hello everyone. It is Friday night that I'm posting this video. It is not Friday night as I'm making this video. But my intention is every Friday night to post something that I hope will be of service in the world right now and a good way to learn and to help me learn as well. So that song is called Simple Gifts. And isn't it beautiful, right? It's such a very beautiful melody, something that's very singable and something very relatable. And so I'm going to just tell you the words, the lyrics to Simple Gifts. And here they are. 'Tis the gift to be simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, it will be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed to turn. Turn will be our delight, till by turning, we come round right. So that's a Shaker hymn. Shakers were an off-sect of the Quakers, and were great believers in simplicity. So the idea of simple gifts, and that it will be simple and that it will set us free. So I always think of that hymn when I'm trying to set myself right. And so it makes me think of this book that I read quite often. It's by one of my favorite authors named Mark Nepo. I love Mark Nepo. And so this one is called As Far as the Heart Can See. It's a great book. It's all stories. I think he writes stories to illuminate the soul. And they're all different and they're all beautiful. So here's the story from Mark Nepo that fits with our Shaker hymn. It's called The Work of the Worm. The story is told by a Native American tribe that the Great Spirit had trouble keeping the world together when a little worm said he could help. Knowing that the secret of life lived in everything, the Great Spirit welcomed the little worm's help. So the Great Spirit said, "Help me, little worm." And the little worm slowly spun its barely seeable silk, connecting all of creation with a delicate web. The Great Spirit smiled, and its smile cast a light across the earth, making the web of connection briefly visible. The Great Spirit marveled at the little worm's industrious gift, for the worm was not clever or brilliant, but simply devoted to being and doing what it was put here to do. To inch through the earth, spinning from its guts a fine thread that holds everything together. And so the Great Spirit said to the little worm, "You have saved us, little worm, not by being great or bold, but by staying true to your own nature. I will let you live forever." The little worm was stunned and somewhat frightened. The Great Spirit saw this. "Don't you want to live forever?" The little worm inched closer. "Oh, Father, the earth is big enough to cross. I fear so many years if I can't grow." The Great Spirit smiled again at the wisdom of one of its smallest creatures. "Very well, little worm. I will only let you grow into forever. I will give you the ability to spin this precious thread that connects everything around yourself. When you can enclose yourself within that web and quiet your urge to inch and squirm away, you will emerge after a time with the thinnest of wings full of color. Then you will know the lightness of being that I know." The little worm bowed and began to search for a leaf on which to grow. And this is how the Great Spirit enabled the worm to spin a cocoon and from its quietude become a butterfly. The story tells us that everything in creation is connected, and that what holds it all together comes from the humble work of living on earth, spinning from our guts a fine thread that holds everything together. It tells us that the experience of eternity is possible if we immerse ourselves firsthand in the barely seeable web of connections. Humbly, like a little worm, it is in us to work our experience, our pain and frustration and confusion and wonder, into threads of silk. Freely, it is our choice to first connect everything with our experience and then to make a cocoon of these connections. And third, to enter that cocoon of experience, the way a Native American sweats in his lodge, the way a yogi holds his third eye, the way a monk maintains his vow of silence. The story tells us that if we still ourselves long enough within the web of all there is, we will eventually come to know the lightness of God's being. I love that story. It's so profoundly simple, like our simple gifts, but it reminds us that we all have gifts. It reminds us that we're all connected. Sometimes we forget that. We start to believe that we're small, and that's a lie. We start to believe, as Thich Nhat Hanh, I think, says it so beautifully, that we have this delusion that we are separate, because we're not. So my personal experience that I can share on some level is from quite a while ago. As some of you know, I was with my husband involved in a medical crisis that was really large. And so when my husband was in a coma, I was really profoundly scared that I couldn't talk to him, that I wouldn't be able to connect with him. And I remember a friend of mine told me, she said, "Patty, just sit in your heart." And I thought, well, okay, I can do that. I know how to do that. So he was intubated, like what we hear in COVID right now. So he had all the tubes and everything. And there's this one little spot on his arm, and I could put my fingers there. I could put 2 fingers there, and I would just touch that spot. And so I was there a lot, and what I would do is I'd touch that spot, and I'd just put my head on the bed next to him, and I would sit in my heart. And what came to me was this kind of like pink chamber, and it had these kind of like pillars, almost like what you see like a stump of a tree, but kind of a white pink, like literally like the inside of my heart. And there was not a doorway, but kind of like a back area where there was a tunnel that came into this space. I never went in the tunnel, I just had my space. And then what was a little strange was in the space was a seesaw. Yeah. So I saw this every time. I saw this for 9 days straight as he was in this coma. And Ron would come into this chamber. I could see him. And we weren't the way we are now, like this age, but more childlike. And so he would come in there, and we would just talk and laugh, and we'd sing. Sometimes we'd get on the seesaw, and we'd giggle. And I just had this ongoing conversation with him. And he always left. He always, at some point, would say, "Okay, I have to go now." A couple times he said, "I don't know if I'll be back, but I want to be." And that always gave me hope, So, that was my experience in the hospital. Now you fast forward about 3 months. I was talking to Ron. He was at home at this point. And I said, when you were in the coma, do you remember anything about it? And he said, "No, not really, blah, 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 A lot of people think if you're in a coma, you're going to have like these huge epiphanies, and it doesn't always work that way. And I said, I was still able to talk to you. He said, "Oh, yeah, I know. He said, "It was really pink in there." And I had never said a word to anybody about this. I said, "Yeah, it was." He said, "Yeah, it was a lot of pink, and there was that tunnel." He said, "I always went down that tunnel." I said, "Yeah, you would leave, you would go down that tunnel." And I'm still thinking, oh my God, this is strange, But then he said, "And what's with the seesaw?" And I thought, okay, undeniable now. So we had the same experience because we were connected and open to it, I just still find that so profoundly amazing. I just love that. So yes, we are all connected, and when we let the light of God and simplicity and love kind of come through, and remember that we have these gifts, like we are all here for this value of seeing that momentary light on the web of humanness and connectedness. It can profoundly change the world, and reveal it for what it actually is and not the delusion that we're separate. So, welcome to my Friday nights. I want to do this because I need to learn. I always learn from music, I always learn from books. I just love it. And of course from our own experience. And so I just want to share it with all of you. So please share, let me learn from you, and comment, make your own video, man. Let me see stuff on your page that I can learn from and experience as well. So thank you for your Friday night. I appreciate it. Bye for now.